Welcome back to Truth Moment. Welcome back to Truth Moment. I'm your host, Tiara Pritchett. My next guest is just such a great person and comes from such a rich background that I had no idea about when we were serving together in the student ministry at our local church. And I just figured she was just a happy, energetic person. And little did I know there was so much that lied behind those smiles that threatened her very existence. And it's so easy for us to say we're products of our environment, so we can't get ahead because of where we come from. Well, Janae, she bashes that theory to shreds. And so in this next episode, fittingly titled, Coming Full Circle, I would like for you to help me welcome Miss Janae Harris. Janae, welcome to Truth Moment.
Oh, thank you, Tiara. Thank you for having me.
No problem. No, thank you for coming on. And I've heard you mention before, in 2012, your life changed and would never be the same again. Would you please explain to me what happened?
Of course. Back in 2012, I was going through a rough time. That was during the time where I just had to withdraw from college. I was going to nursing school to receive my bachelor's. And it came down to my youngest daughter becoming sick, and so she got hospitalized for a whole week. Well, within that time, my director at the time wouldn't allow me to take my finals because it was during finals. So I had to withdraw and wait until the quarter came back around for me to start school again. Well, of course, that's not what was on my mind because I was still in the Army National Guard at the time. And so all of my benefits, I lost that because I was only receiving that through going to school.
Oh, wow.
And so all of that was cut off for me. So then I had to go and apply for assistance, which is food stamps and child care services and things like that. And when I did that, it was like my whole life was crumbling. After I lost my funds that was coming in, someone broke into my home. From someone breaking into my home, I had to go and live with my mom. From there, the situation wasn't good. Whatever the circumstances were, it basically pushed me into the streets where I was homeless. And so during that moment, when I was homeless, I was searching for help and looking for help at the time and could not find any help. And so I thought in my mind, fleshly, to go and ask my oldest daughter's father to actually try to help me, knowing that he was not there in her life before and he wasn't present with helping me. But I was just looking for a way out so that I can get back on my feet. At that moment, when I did that, of course, my mind was not clear about the choices that I was making. In the meantime, 3 days later, after dropping her off to him, he decided that he wanted to basically take matters into his own hands. Well, I went over to his home 3 days later to go pick up my daughter. And so when I went to go do that, I did not know in the back of his mind, he had already had a motive and an agenda and wanted to basically hurt me. Not until I went there to get my daughter and they wouldn't release her to me. They were saying that I couldn't take her and that, that the police was already involved and everything. And I'm the only person standing outside the car with my baby daughter. She was in the car with me, not knowing what was going on. So at that moment, when I got out of the car and I went to talk to his grandmother because she came out of the home, she was looking as though she was puzzled, but all the while, everybody knew what was going on except for me. He took it upon himself to basically hit me. He caused a domestic violence act towards me where he basically tried to take my life from me. And it was nothing but the grace of God that kept me that night, obviously from the blood that was coming from my body that stopped him because he literally was kicking me, punching me, kneeing me, pulling my hair. At the very moment when I was on the ground, I totally blinked out and obviously, like I said, it was only God that could have stopped him after him seeing whatever happened for him to get off of me, and he ran.
And your baby daughter is in the car watching all of this at the time?
Yeah, she was actually sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah, so she didn't get to see that part, but my oldest daughter was in the home at the time that all of this was taking place. So I don't really know if she saw what happened, but I knew that she knew what was going on.
Did you ever find out the why? Why not just say, okay, you're not going to get her back? Why to such extremes to create a domestic violence situation?
To be honest with you, I truly feel as though the anger over the years of guilt and shame that, what he's been going through in his life. And then on top of that, my own mother actually called his family and told them that I was homeless, I didn't have a place to live, and that I was an unfit parent. So they felt as though they could take matters into their own hands. And he thought that that was the best way at the time, was to put his hands on me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so did someone call the police for you? What happened to you after you're laying there bleeding, blacked out, basically?
Yeah.
What happened next?
Well, I got up off of the ground after, noticing that, I'm bruised, but because my adrenaline was rushing, I didn't feel anything at the moment. So the first thing I could think of, okay, they took my child from me. I have to call 911. So I called the police myself. When the police arrived, there was a black cop and there was a white cop. I'm just going to keep it real with you.
Okay.
There was a black cop and there's a white cop there. Of course, the black cop went up to their house, and the white cop was the one that was questioning me, and they actually called paramedics, for me to receive attention and everything like that. But I denied it because the only thing that I could think of is my daughter. And so when that happened, as the cop was basically questioning me about what happened, he asked me, did I think that he was going to come back and find me and try to kill me? Well, of course, I said yes, because at this point, I've never experienced anything like that. And the things that he was saying to me, oh, you're going to die, I'm going to make sure I kill you. In my mind, I have to protect myself. And that's what I told the officer, And so at that moment, when he said, well, do you think he's going to come and find you? I said yes. Because if he comes and find me, I have to find a way to protect myself. Yeah. And so from me saying that, he said, take the other child. So they took my other daughter at the same time.
Wow. Okay. And so you have to go through, after this moment, you left the home and the police took your other daughter, your baby. And then what happened? Where'd you go?
At that moment, to be honest with you, all I could do is sit in my car and cry. I really felt like I was at my lowest point in my life because I live for my kids.
Yeah.
Everything that I do it's surrounded around my daughters. My drive that I have surrounded around my daughters. My gifts and my dreams that I have is surrounded around my daughters, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be so optimistic the way that I am today. But as a teenage parent and as a single parent, my oldest daughter is what put that drive into me as a teenager for me to go out there and pursue my dreams and pursue my passions. So in that moment, all I could think about is just to end my life. I couldn't think of any other reason why I should live if they've taken my children from me, and these are the reasons why I'm still here.
Yeah.
So, of course, I thought suicide at the moment. And when I did it, I thought to reach out to my loved ones at that time, which was my best friend and my cousin. And I called them both and said, hey, look, this is it. I've been through enough. I've been from Savannah to Atlanta. I've been going back and forth. I can't find any help. I said, he has just tried to take my life from me. I'm bleeding from my face. There's nothing else for me to live for. I said, so at this very moment, this is the last time you will hear from me. They broke down. When they broke down, something just came over me. And it made me see that, okay, there are people here that do care about me.
Yeah.
So if I was to do anything that was crazy, I would be hurting others. And I didn't want to hurt anybody else. Even though I was hurting, I didn't want to hurt anybody else. And so that's when they said, well, stay where you at. We're coming to you. And those were my thoughts at the time. Suicide were my thoughts at the time. Taking my own life were my thoughts at the time. I didn't have any other thoughts. I didn't have anything else to live for. That's all I thought about.
Okay. And as if that weren't enough, you lose your brother.
Yeah.
Where did that fit into this timeline of things adding up to Janae saying, what's the point? Why even be here anymore? When did you lose your brother?
I lost my brother in 2008.
Okay.
It was about maybe 5 days before Christmas. He was my everything. Growing up in a household, not having a father figure, me and my brother were 10 years apart. So he was my father. So when I got that call of knowing that he was killed, I never really had a chance to grieve. I was still in disbelief, not living my life, not really dealing with the fact that he's no longer here. Mm. So I would cover it up with a smile. I would cover it up with trying to be successful in chasing money. I would do other things just so that I wouldn't actually face the fact that, look, your brother is gone. So when that happened in 2008, automatically in my mind it was like, I gotta get away from here.
Yeah.
I have to get away from where I'm from, where I'm at. There's nothing here for me. Nothing. So the best thing to do is to pack up my things and just leave. And so I ran.
Okay, so you ran. Now, when you say that you ran, where did you go? And I'm not talking about just in a physical sense because, you know, you told me you've been Savannah, Atlanta, and you live in Columbia. But where did you go emotionally, psychologically?
I went nowhere. I was numb.
Okay.
For a very long time. After my daughter's father did what he did to me, that was the icing on the cake. That was when God said, do you hear me now? Are you listening? So during that moment, I had to really stop because at the time when he did what he did to me, a sheriff came and knocked on my father's door about 3 days later saying that they wanted to take custody of my daughter.
The father who beat you within an inch of your life was wanting custody and had U.S. government provided documentation that this was about to be in effect.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So at that moment, my mind totally went someplace else emotionally because all I could do is try to understand and filter all of this. Okay, he just tried to kill me. You have the sheriff knocking saying you're going to take my kids from me. I'm homeless. I have no money. I don't have any funds to buy a lawyer. So what can I do? I went to family. I went to friends. No one could assist me. That was my moment that all I could do was turn to God.
Okay.
I sat in my car. And when I tell you I poured my heart out, I poured my heart out. You know, people say you shouldn't question God. Well, I kind of I knock that. And I'm going to tell you why I knock that. I knock it because when I sat in that car and I poured my heart out to God and I said, God, this can't be my life.
Yeah.
This can't be what you have for me. I said, if they take my children away from me, what else do I have to live for? You took my brother already. What else do I have to live for? I don't really have any family. So I'm in this thing alone. So if you're real, you got to show me that you're real.
Yeah.
I don't have a place to stay. I need a place to stay. I have no money to get a lawyer. I need money. So if you're real, you got to show me that you're real somehow. When I sat in that car and I poured my heart out to him, I said, listen, I'm going to make you a promise. If you fulfill and do the things that you told me that you're capable of doing, what your words say, I said, I promise you I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I said, I promise you I'll go back to right direction. I will serve on a ministry.
Yeah.
And I will become a member. I said, you will never have to worry about me going back to the streets. I won't go back. I'll serve you forever. In that very moment, the Holy Spirit said, stop crying. Get yourself together.
Wow.
I said, okay. I went back into that house. This was the first time I ever heard my father tell me that he had no money for me or he couldn't help me. The very first time I ever heard that. I got hired onto a job a couple of days later. This is God, okay?
Yeah.
A couple of days later, I get a week later, I get a phone call from someone up here at the state up here at DSS in South Carolina asking me was I still looking for a job. I'm like, yes, I'm still looking for a job.
Yeah.
She said, well, I need you to fill out the paperwork and I need you at this time. Remember, I just got hired on this other job. Didn't really have a place to live. I said, I'll be there. I moved back to Columbia, South Carolina within a month, which I had only 14 days to actually respond back to the courts for them petitioning me to be given custody to take my daughter from me. And within a whole month, 14 days later, I was hired on at DSS. Remember, I didn't have a place to live.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Columbia, South Carolina, homeless.
Wow.
Living with a friend. I had 2 weeks for my daughter to begin school in August, and I had 2 weeks to respond back to the courts in Georgia for my daughter. God. Only God could have set me up. Within 2 weeks, I had a whole townhouse, and my daughter was back living with me in Columbia, South Carolina.
Wow.
Only God.
So are you a member at Right Direction?
I am. I'm a member. I'm a member, and I serve.
Okay.
But I kept my promise.
Yeah.
Because he kept his. Because he was faithful to me. He had to put me in a place where I can only hear his voice.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when everything started lining up.
Okay. And the writer says that coming full circle means to go from pessimism to optimism to pessimism and back to optimism again. Would you say that that's how your life has been? You were at a low point, then you're at, a high point. Okay, things are going pretty good. Then a low again, and then now at another high point that you plan and intend on staying in because you have seen the realness of God in your relationship with him and being faithful to him, what type of results that can yield. Would you say that that's pretty much accurate with, your story?
Of course. Just growing up in the type of environment.
What was your environment?
Dysfunctional.
Okay. Very
dysfunctional. I grew up in the hood. Okay. So the struggle was real.
Okay.
Of course, I had one of those moms who, she didn't really talk about the struggle or anything, but the way that we lived, I knew as a child that we didn't have a lot. We didn't have much. And so I knew that I always wanted to be different. I always knew, I looked at, because my siblings are very much so older than me, between 10 to 15 years. And so I'm the baby out of all of them. But when you're the baby, you get to see and make choices. You get to decide whether you're going to do the same thing that you saw or you're going to, try to make the right choices so that your life can be better. And that's what it's always been. But at the same time, even though I grew up in the church, that's one thing I thank God that my mom did was introduce me to church at a young age.
Okay.
And because of that, I always knew God, but I didn't have a relationship with him. It's a difference.
Absolutely.
I knew God. I knew to go and pray to him, but to not really reverence him and really have that one-on-one time with him and communication with him. So I knew that he wanted me to do something, but I didn't know what it was. And I always knew that I was different, but I always ran from it because I was smothered and my wings were clipped constantly, which caused me to go into that cycle.
Of dysfunction.
Of dysfunction.
Okay. Because it was all that you knew. And in situations like that, it's so easy for us to become settled in the product of my environment.
Right.
Because of generational aspects of things.
Yes.
So this is the way you see that it's been done before, and you kind of go along with that.
And you get comfortable.
Absolutely.
You get comfortable, and you go back to the familiarity of it, because it's like, this feels right. And that's what I did, to be honest with you. When my brother was killed and I moved up here to Columbia, I moved in the hood.
Okay.
In the hood. Why? Because that's what I knew.
Yeah.
I knew that, okay, nobody, I'm cool with them. I speak the same language as they do. Yeah. Got the auntie on the corner. I know she watching my house. You know what I'm saying? I know that the kids could go outside and they could play. You feel me? So that's what I knew.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's not the promises that God had for me.
Yeah.
And that's why at that very moment, someone broke into my house. Something that I never thought would happen, because why? I thought Boo Boo down the street was watching my house.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that, they know me, and they know that I'm a single parent, and they know this and they know that. But that didn't stop them from running off in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost as though you needed that as a wake-up experience. Like, okay, I can't say that I know you, but I'm not doing things to act as though I know you.
Right.
With regards to your relationship.
Right.
And that's important. I've heard you say before. Like I said, we've ministered together. And I've heard you say that relationship over religion. And so, okay, God takes you out of your despair and out of the hood.
Yeah.
And if only y'all could see where she lives now. But God. You desire to serve him in other ways. Like I mentioned before, you are the founder of On Fire.
Yes.
What is On Fire? And how does a girl from the hood, from the environment that yields nothing but despair and statistical living?
When I was 5, I'll never forget it, because my mom was one of those women who would keep me away from my father at times. And so, but when I did get moments to spend time with my father, he would ask me, what did I want to be when I grow up? I told him a teacher. Not knowing that I'll be teaching right now.
Yeah.
But over the years, from elementary school to middle school, my dad, he still asked me, what do you want to be? By that time, my mind wasn't even focusing on, I didn't know anything about college. I didn't even have a desire to be anything. And I would just say to him, Daddy, look, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't know what I want to be. I look at the kids in the school system and how they treat teachers. I was like, Daddy, that ain't even me. I wouldn't be able to make it. And so then I would get in high school. Well, of course, in high school, that's when I actually got pregnant. I was impregnated with my oldest daughter at the age of 15 years old.
Okay.
And so that's what brought that drive to me. I was like, look, you got to do something. When you get out of high school, you have to do something. So still my mind wasn't on teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, of course, life went on, and I had this whole idea of, well, I'm going to go to nursing school. I'm going to become a pediatrician. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that in the nursing field.
Yeah.
But that's not what God had for me.
Yeah.
And so during the moments of, after me committing myself to God and surrendering my everything to him, I'll never forget. I was driving down the street on a lunch break, and immediately popped into my spirit, you need to do a mentoring program. And I'm like, what? For what?
Yeah.
Like, who am I going to mentor? How am I going to mentor them? And so everything just started downloading in me. Well, remember when you were here, when you were in elementary school? Remember when you were in middle school? Remember when you faced this issue over here? Remember when you went through this? All of this that is within you needs to be heard by some young person, some young adult, because they can relate to you. I said, well, I don't have a name. Don't worry about a name. That's what I heard. I'm like, don't worry about a name. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to find a name. I started picking all type of names. I was picking names with my daughter's names inside of it. I was picking names with my brother's name inside of it. Yeah. And just something was just like, that ain't it.
Yeah.
Like, no, go back. You need to go back and, seek some other things. And so, of course, I went back and I spent time with God, having that relationship with him. And it just came to me as on fire.
Which stands for?
Optimistic nurturers, finessing and passionate young adults.
Okay.
Well, I knew that the name that I did pick, it had to be something that was dealing with or connected with my brother, because he has his own story. But I knew that what we've been through as siblings, if he was here, he would be able to minister and change lives as well. But I knew he needed to be a part of my ministry and my organization because his same story will be told through On Fire. And On Fire is just basically purpose birthed out of pain. So everything that I've been through, there was a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
But I had to go through the fire in order for me to receive the promises. Because I could have stopped, I could have gave up, but I kept going. Even though it hurts. Because see, when you're going through fire, it burns. So On Fire to me is that every young adult, every youth that I come in contact with, when they're able to feel that fire burning, that's how they know that they're going to the next level.
That's beautiful. And the acronym for it makes so much sense. Because another example will be when something is submerged in the fire, then its shape can shift. Like it can change form. Like baking cookies. When you put the cookies down on the cookie pan.
That's right.
And you place them in the oven.
Right.
You've dropped them in. They were circles. They were balls. And so it's after they've been submerged in the fire that their true shape, their purpose for you being able to eat them or whatever, their true purpose is revealed after they've been brought out of that fire. Right. So I think that is absolutely beautiful. It makes complete and total sense as to why it would be named as such. Not just, because when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I thought it was just a little colloquialism. Yo, we on fire, but it makes so much sense. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to, just join me in congratulating this awesome woman of God and all of her accomplishments. And also just really, I want to thank you for coming on and being a part of this. And then just really being the epitome of coming full circle. Because to go from homelessness to being a homeowner.
What?
Truth moment, and the decor in here is the truth. I said, do you have, is this something you do? Is it a designer? Did you just, look at a magazine? Oh, no, honey, I just walked in the store and picked it out. So, absolutely beautiful home, and I'm so thankful that you allowed us in, and, you did an awesome job making it real.
Thank you.
What this is about. And so, without any further ado, I'm Tiara Pritchett. That's my truth moment, and this is Janae's truth moment. What's yours?